Never think you can fool me, because when I play to win." Those words stared back at Armaan from the last page of her diary. His hands trembled as he read them. His heart pounded in his chest, because by the time he understood what they meant, it was already too late. It had all begun as a joke, a harmless bet. Armaan sat with his friends that evening, laughter echoing around the table, when someone smirked and threw down the challenge. "Think you can make Mayhair fall for you?" Mayhair. The girl who walked past crowds without a glance. The one who carried elegance like armor, distant and untouchable. Armaan had grinned. He thought it would be easy. A game, just like all the others. But what he didn't know was that the game had already begun. And he wasn't the one holding the cards. Armaan had a plan. Charm her, make her fall, and then walk away like she never mattered. Simple. Their first meeting happened in the library. The perfect setup. "Do you always take life so seriously?" Armaan smirked, leaning against the bookshelf. Mayhair didn't even glance at him. "I don't waste time on unnecessary conversations." That should have been a warning, but to Armaan it was an invitation. The challenge thrilled him. He found little ways to slip into her world, offering a book she was looking for, remembering how she liked her coffee, dropping compliments that felt effortless. And slowly, Mayhair started letting her guard down. Her glances lingered a little longer. Her words softened. Armaan thought he was winning. What he failed to see was the flicker of amusement in Mayhair's eyes. The way her lips curled, just slightly, like she was enjoying a game of her own. One afternoon, as they sat together beneath the soft glow of the library lights, Mayhair did something unexpected. She slid a small, leather-bound diary across the table. "There's something inside only you can understand," she said, her voice calm, unreadable. Armaan raised an eyebrow, intrigued. He flipped open the first page, expecting poetry, maybe a secret confession. But instead, he found a single line written in delicate, precise handwriting. "I'm playing a game, too." A slow smirk spread across his lips. "So, she thinks this is a game?" He chuckled, closing the diary with a sense of amusement. He thought it was flirtation, a challenge, a hint that she had fallen for him, too. What he didn't realize was that it wasn't a hint. It was a warning. Armaan thought everything was falling into place. Mayhair was smiling more, texting first, waiting for him after class. It was working. She was falling, or so he believed. One evening, as they strolled through the quiet campus, Mayhair suddenly spoke, her voice light, but her words sharp. "Have you ever lied to someone, just to see how far you could take it?" Armaan chuckled, masking his surprise. "That's a dangerous question." She stopped walking and turned to him, eyes steady, unreadable. "You didn't answer it." The air between them shifted. For the first time, something unsettled him. It wasn't just a question, it was a test, and he had no idea if he had already failed. That night, as Armaan lay in bed, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Unknown. "You think you're the one in control?" Armaan frowned, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Armaan. Who is this?" A few seconds passed. Then another message. Unknown. "You're in too deep now. Just wait and see." He nodded, keeping his expression casual, pretending he hadn't seen the diary. But inside, his mind raced. What game was she talking about? And was he the one being played? Then Mayhair took a step closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You seem nervous. Almost like you have something to hide." Armaan chuckled, shaking his head. "Not at all. But Meher didn't laugh. She didn't even blink. Her eyes, they weren't questioning him. They were studying him, like she already knew the answer. That night, as Armaan lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, one thought consumed him. This had to end. What started as a harmless game now felt like something else, something dangerous. The way Meher looked at him, the way she spoke. It was like she knew, like she had known all along. He couldn't shake the feeling. Tomorrow he would tell her everything. He would meet her, confess that it was all just a bet, a stupid, meaningless challenge. Maybe she'd be hurt, maybe she'd hate him, but at least he'd be free from this unsettling feeling clawing at his chest. But when he reached their usual meeting spot the next day, Meher was already there, waiting, smiling, and in her hands was something that made his blood turn cold. His phone. Armaan's breath caught in his throat as she held it up, the screen glowing in the dim light. And then his stomach dropped. It was open to his group chat, the one where he and his friends had planned everything. The bet, the tricks, the lies, every message, every cruel joke laid bare in front of her. Meher looked up, locking eyes with him. And for the first time, Armaan wasn't sure if he was about to lose a game or face the consequences of playing the wrong opponent. Armaan's stomach plummeted. His mind scrambled for answers. How did she get his phone? When did she take it? Had she seen everything? Meher stood there, calm, too calm. The soft smile on her lips didn't reach her eyes. She let out a quiet sigh. I wanted to believe you, Armaan. I really did. Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was worse. It was disappointed. Armaan's mouth opened, maybe to explain, maybe to lie. But Meher simply lifted a hand, stopping him mid-sentence. Before you say anything, before you lie again, tell me one thing. She stepped closer, her eyes searching his face. Was any of it real? Silence. Armaan's throat went dry. The words wouldn't come. Not the excuse, not the apology. Because for the first time, he didn't have an answer. Armaan reached for the phone, but Meher was faster. She pulled it away effortlessly, her grip firm. You used me, played with my feelings. Her voice was steady, but there was something sharp beneath it. Something that made Armaan's chest tighten. He swallowed hard. Meher, listen. She shook her head, cutting him off. No, you listen. She stepped closer, eyes locked onto his, unblinking. Not hurt, not broken. Something else. You thought I was falling for you? A soft chuckle escaped her lips. I was waiting for this moment. Armaan frowned, his mind racing. What was she saying? Then, Meher tilted her head, her smile widening. I already knew about your little bet, before it even started. The ground beneath him might as well have vanished. She had known, all along. A chill crawled up Armaan's spine. His mind struggled to process what she had just said. She knew? Since when? How? Meher exhaled slowly, then tossed his phone onto the table with a soft thud. Did you really think I'd fall for someone like you? Her voice was light, almost amused, but the words sliced through him like a blade. Armaan's hands curled into fists at his sides. A flicker of anger burned in his chest. "So, this was all fake?" His voice was low, edged with frustration. "You were pretending the whole time?" Meher didn't flinch. If anything, she seemed to enjoy watching him unravel. She stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "Tell me, Armaan." Her voice dipped into a whisper, laced with something cold. "How does it feel to be the one who got played?" Silence stretched between them. Armaan had spent weeks thinking he was in control, believing he was the one pulling the strings. But now, standing in front of her, his own game turned against him. He realized he had never been in control at all. Armaan's fists clenched at his sides, his jaw tightening. "Why?" His voice was sharp, demanding. "Why go through all this? Why not just call me out from the start?" For the first time, Meher's expression shifted. The confidence, the amusement. It all faded, and in its place was something else. Sadness. She looked down for a moment, as if weighing her words. Then, in a whisper, she said, "Because I wanted you to know what it feels like." Her gaze lifted, meeting his, and this time there was no smirk, no act, just raw emotion. To be used, to be lied to be nothing more than someone else's game. Armaan felt something tighten in his chest. This wasn't just about him. Someone had done this to her before. Someone had played with her heart, just like he had tried to do. And instead of breaking, she had learned. She had turned the game around, not for revenge, not to hurt him, but to make him feel the weight of what he had done. His anger melted away. The fight drained from his body. For the first time in his life, Armaan wasn't just caught. He was ashamed. Armaan took a deep breath, his chest heavy with regret. "Meher, I didn't mean to hurt you." She let out a small, almost tired laugh. But her eyes, once so full of warmth, were distant now. "That's the thing about people like you, Armaan." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You never mean to, but you do it anyway." Her words hit harder than he expected. Then, without another glance, she turned to leave. Panic shot through him. He couldn't let this end like this. Before he could think, his hand reached out, wrapping gently around her wrist. "Please," he whispered, his voice almost breaking. "Let me fix this." For a moment she didn't move. Slowly, she looked down at his hand, then back up at him. Her eyes weren't cold. They weren't angry. They were just done. "Some things can't be fixed, Armaan." And just like that, she walked away. Armaan stood frozen, watching her disappear into the distance. The girl he had tried to fool, the girl he thought he had won. But in the end, she had been the one to walk away. Days turned into weeks, but Meher was gone. No messages, no calls, not even a passing glance in the hallway. Armaan tried everything. Texting, calling, waiting, but she never replied. Then, one evening, as he opened his locker, something fluttered to the floor. A single piece of paper. His heart pounded as he picked it up. The handwriting was familiar. It was from Maher's diary. Never think you can fool me, because when I play to win. His hands trembled. The words blurred as realization sank in. All this time he had been so sure, so confident. He thought he was in control, but from the very beginning, he was the fool. Armaan never saw Maher again. She vanished from his world as if she had never been there at all. No texts, no accidental run-ins, nothing. But the echoes of her name never left. Sometimes, as he walked through campus, he would hear the whispers. Did you hear what she did to Armaan? She turned the game on him. No one's ever played him like that before. He never stopped, never reacted. But every time he heard it, something inside him twisted. Because in those moments, Armaan finally understood. Maher wasn't just another girl he could fool. She was the only one who ever beat him at his own game.